The wine glass shattered against the hardwood floor. Everyone froze. My father stood at the head of the table, his face red with laughter, one hand still raised from his toast. "To Jeff, the son who actually made me proud," he just said. The words hung in the air like smoke. I stared at the broken glass at my feet, watching red wine spread across the floor like blood. My brother smirked from across the table, that same smirk he'd worn since we were kids. Mom touched my arm gently, but I pulled away. Dad looked directly at me, his eyes cold. "Maury, not everyone's meant to be successful. Some people are just meant to support those who are." The room erupted in uncomfortable laughter. My fork clattered onto my plate. I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the floor. "Excuse me," I whispered. Nobody tried to stop me. As I walked out, I heard Jeff say, "She's always been too sensitive." More laughter followed. That was the night everything changed. That was the night I decided they'd never laugh at me again. 3 weeks earlier, everything seemed normal. I arrived at Dad's firm at 7 in the morning, like always. The building was still dark and empty. I liked it that way, quiet, peaceful, mine. I was the senior project manager, though nobody really acknowledged it. I'd been working there for 5 years, ever since graduating from business school. Jeff had joined 2 years ago, fresh out of college with a marketing degree and Dad's favoritism. I headed to my office, a cramped space with no windows, tucked away in the corner. Jeff's office was twice the size, right next to Dad's, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. I didn't complain. I just worked harder. That morning, I was preparing a presentation for the Caldwell account, our biggest potential client in years. I'd spent months researching their needs, designing a comprehensive strategy, crunching numbers until midnight for weeks. The presentation was perfect. I saved it on the shared drive and headed to get coffee. When I returned, Jeff was leaving my office. "Morning, sis," he said cheerfully. "Just borrowing your notes for inspiration." I should have known then. I should have seen it coming. The presentation meeting was scheduled for Friday. I arrived early, my proposal printed and bound professionally. Dad walked in with Jeff, both laughing about something. "Change of plans, Maury," Dad said without looking at me. "Jeff's going to lead the Caldwell pitch. He came to me yesterday with an incredible strategy." My stomach dropped. "But I've been working on this for months." "The presentation's ready. Jeff's approach is fresher," Dad interrupted. "More innovative. You can assist him if you'd like." I looked at Jeff. He wouldn't meet my eyes. The presentation he gave was mine. Every slide, every word, every number. He'd copied my entire proposal and changed nothing except the name on the cover page. The Caldwell executives loved it. They signed immediately. Afterward, Dad pulled Jeff into a hug. "That's my boy. Brilliant work." Nobody mentioned my name. Nobody asked who'd actually created the strategy. I stood in the corner, invisible, my hands shaking with rage. That afternoon, Dad sent a company-wide email praising Jeff's exceptional creativity and business insight. My name appeared once, at the bottom, thanks to the support staff who helped prepare materials. I found Jeff in the break room, celebrating with colleagues. "Can we talk?" I asked quietly. He grinned. "Sure, sis. What's up?" I waited until we were alone in the conference room. "You stole my presentation." He laughed. "Stole? That's dramatic. We're family. We share ideas." I spent 3 months on that proposal. Every detail was mine. "And now it's a success," he said, shrugging. "You should be happy. We won the account. With my work. Under your name. Business is business, Maury. Grow up." His dismissiveness was worse than Dad's favoritism. "I'm going to tell Dad the truth." Jeff's smile faded. "Go ahead. Who do you think he'll believe? His successful son or his support staff?" The words hit like a slap. He leaned closer. "Face it. You're good at the background work. I'm good at the big picture. That's just how it is." He walked out, leaving me standing there, trembling with fury. I went straight to Dad's office. Before I could speak, He held up his hand. If this is about credit for the Caldwell account, don't bother. Jeff's the future of this company. I created that entire presentation, I said, my voice shaking. Jeff copied it word for word from my files. Dad leaned back in his leather chair, studying me with disappointment. You're being emotional, Maury. This is exactly why women struggle in business. This has nothing to do with, Jeff told me you might react this way. Jealousy isn't attractive. Jealousy? He stole my work. He improved upon your research. That's collaboration. You should learn from him instead of attacking him. I felt something break inside me. 5 years of loyalty, of early mornings and late nights, of putting this company first. None of it mattered. Then I quit. Dad blinked. Excuse me? I quit. Effective immediately. I pulled my employee ID from around my neck and dropped it on his desk. You're making a huge mistake, he said coldly. You won't survive a week without this family's support. Watch me. I walked out without looking back. My hands shook as I packed my office. 5 years fit into one cardboard box. Nobody said goodbye. Jeff watched from his window, that smirk still on his face. Outside, the afternoon sun felt too bright. I sat in my car and cried until I couldn't breathe. 2 weeks later, I was living on my friend's couch. My savings were disappearing fast. Rent was due. My phone stayed silent. No calls from family, no texts, nothing. I'd sent out 50 resumes and gotten 3 rejections. The rest ignored me completely. I started wondering if Dad was right. Maybe I wasn't cut out for this. Maybe I was just support staff pretending to be more. One morning, I checked my email expecting another rejection. Instead, I found a message from Watts Innovations, a startup that had been making waves in the industry. Dear Ms. Maury, we've reviewed your portfolio and would like to discuss a senior consultant position. Your work on the Caldwell strategy proposal was exceptional. My heart stopped. They thought I'd done the Caldwell work. Because I had. I replied immediately and had an interview scheduled for the next day. The office was smaller than Dad's firm, younger, more energetic. The CEO, a woman named Victoria Hayes, greeted me personally. Your reputation precedes you, she said, shaking my hand. We need someone with your strategic thinking. You know about my background? She smiled. We know everything, including why you left your father's firm. I started at Watts the following Monday. The pay was less than before, but the atmosphere was different. People actually listened to my ideas. I worked harder than ever, arriving first and leaving last. Within 3 weeks, I landed my first client, a mid-sized tech company looking for market expansion strategies. My proposal won against 2 larger firms. Victoria called me into her office. Impressive work, Maury. You've got something your brother doesn't. I looked up, surprised. What's that? Hunger. You're not entitled. You're determined. That's worth more than any family name. The words meant everything. Over the next 2 months, I brought in 3 more clients. My strategies worked. Companies saw results. My reputation grew, not as someone's daughter or someone's sister, but as Maury, the consultant who delivered. Then I landed the big one. Ben Industries, a manufacturing giant that had worked with Dad's firm for 10 years. They'd grown frustrated with declining results and wanted a fresh perspective. I presented a complete restructuring plan. They signed immediately. When the contract went public, my phone exploded. The first call was from Dad. What the hell do you think you're doing? He shouted. I'm working, I said calmly. You stole our client. They chose to leave. Maybe if you'd given them better service. You're trying to destroy your brother, Dad accused. You're vindictive and petty. I'm succeeding, I corrected him. There's a difference. Jeff's devastated. He's worked so hard to build that relationship. He did? Or did I, back when I was just support staff? Silence on the other end. Then, I'm cutting you off financially. Every trust fund, every inheritance, everything. You're on your own. I laughed through the tears forming in my eyes. Good. Now I owe you nothing. Now everything I build is mine." He hung up. I sat there shaking, feeling strangely free. The ties that had bound me to their expectations were gone. I was truly independent now. Over the next 6 months, Watts grew rapidly. We won 7 major accounts, 4 of them former clients of Dad's firm. I wasn't targeting them specifically. They came to us because we were better. But watching Dad's company lose ground felt like justice. Industry rumors started circulating. Jeff's firm was struggling. Several executives had left. Projects were failing. Dad had taken a second mortgage on the family home to cover operating costs. I tried not to care. I tried to focus on my own success. But late at night, I remembered that dinner, that toast, that smirk. Part of me wanted them to crash. The call came from my old colleague, Marcus, who still worked at Dad's firm. "Maury, I thought you should know, things are bad here. Really bad." "How bad?" "Jeff lost the Winston contract. That was 20% of our revenue. Your father's talking about bankruptcy." I felt a strange mixture of satisfaction and guilt. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because Jeff's blaming you publicly. He's telling everyone you sabotaged him, that you stole clients through unethical means." My jaw clenched. "That's a lie." "I know. But he's desperate. The whole company's falling apart." After we hung up, I stared at my computer screen for an hour. Then I called Victoria. "Remember how you said we needed to expand?" "Of course," she replied. "What are you thinking?" "There's a struggling firm available. Good infrastructure, solid client base once, terrible current management. We could acquire it quietly, restructure it, and turn it profitable." "Which firm?" I took a breath. "My father's company." Victoria was silent for a long moment. "That's bold. And potentially complicated." "I know. But it's a good business decision. The firm itself is valuable. The leadership just needs replacing." "Can you handle that emotionally?" I thought about the broken wine glass, about stolen presentations, about being called vindictive for succeeding. Yes. I can handle it. The acquisition took 3 months. We worked through third-party intermediaries, keeping Watts's name hidden until the final stages. Dad's firm was bleeding money so fast they didn't have much choice. The board of directors, desperate to save their investments, voted to accept the buyout. I watched from my laptop as news sites reported the sale. Alf and Associates acquired by private equity group. The headlines read, "Not Watts Innovations. Not Maury Harrison." Just vague corporate language that meant nothing to the public. My phone rang. "Dad." I almost didn't answer. "Did you know about this?" he demanded. "Know about what?" "Some company bought us out. They're demanding management changes. They're threatening to fire Jeff." "Businesses get bought all the time, Dad." "This feels personal. This feels like revenge." "Maybe it's just bad business catching up with you," I said quietly. He hung up. 3 days later, Jeff called. His voice was different. Smaller, scared. "Maury, I need to talk to you." "About what?" "Can we meet? Please?" "Just coffee, just 30 minutes." I agreed, curious despite myself. We met at a cafe downtown, neutral territory. He looked terrible. Exhausted, defeated, years older than when I'd seen him last. "The new owners are cleaning the house," he said. "They're reviewing all our past projects, all our contracts. They found problems everywhere." "What kind of problems?" I asked, sipping my coffee. Jeff rubbed his face. "Projects I managed that lost money. Proposals I did that failed. The Caldwell account I won." He paused. "They figured out I didn't actually create that strategy. They're calling it fraud." I kept my expression neutral. "That's unfortunate. You don't understand. They want me gone. They're threatening legal action. Dad mortgaged his house for me, and now we're going to lose everything." He looked at me with desperate eyes. "I know we haven't been close. I know I haven't treated you well. But you're successful now. You could help. You could put in a good word with the new owners, help me keep my job. I set down my coffee cup carefully. Why would I do that? Because we're family. Family, I repeated. Like when you stole my presentation. Like when you let Dad call me support staff. Like when you smirked while he toasted to you being the successful one. I was wrong, he said. I know that now. I was arrogant and stupid. But Maori, I'm losing everything. Dad's losing everything. Please. I stood up. You'll hear from the new owners soon. I walked out, leaving him sitting there. That night, Victoria called. The board meeting's tomorrow. Final decisions about management. Are you ready? I looked at myself in the mirror. I'm ready. The next morning, I dressed in my best suit, navy blue, sharp, professional. Victoria drove us to Dad's firm together. My old workplace. I'd thought I'd feel nervous walking back through those doors, but instead, I felt calm, powerful. The conference room was full, board members, lawyers, executives I'd once worked alongside. They all turned when I entered. Confusion crossed their faces. What's Maori doing here? Someone whispered. Victoria stood at the head of the table. Everyone, I'd like to formally introduce the majority owner and new CEO of this company, Maori Harrison. The room erupted. Voices overlapped. Someone said, impossible. Someone else said, conflict of interest. Dad stood up so fast his chair fell backward. This is a joke. It's not, Victoria said calmly. Watts Innovations acquired this firm 3 months ago. Maori Harrison owns controlling interest. She'll be taking over as CEO effective immediately. She can't. She's trying to destroy us. She's trying to save you, Victoria corrected. This company was 6 months from bankruptcy. Now it has a future. The door opened. Jeff walked in, stopping dead when he saw me sitting in Dad's chair. Maori. Our eyes met across the room. His face went white. Welcome back, I said quietly. We need to talk about your future here. The board meeting lasted 3 hours. I presented financial reports, project audits, restructuring plans. Every question they asked, I answered with data I'd spent months compiling. Slowly, the resistance faded. These were business people. They cared about profits, not family drama. By the end, they voted unanimously to support my leadership. Jeff sat silent in the corner the entire time. Afterward, I found him in his office. The big corner office with windows that used to be Dad's. We need to discuss your position, I said from the doorway. He looked up, his eyes red. Just fire me and get it over with. I'm not firing you. He blinked in surprise. What? You're valuable, Jeff. You're good with clients when you actually try. You're charismatic. You just need supervision and accountability. I don't understand. I sat down across from him. I'm offering you a position. Senior Account Manager. You'll report directly to me. Reduced salary, no executive authority, but a real chance to prove yourself. You're serious? Completely. But there are conditions. No more stealing credit. No more blaming others for your failures. You work, you earn recognition honestly, or you're gone. He stared at me. Why would you do this? After everything? Because I'm not Dad. I don't pick favorites. I judge people by their actual merit. His voice cracked. I don't deserve this. No, you don't, I agreed. But I'm giving you the chance I never got, a real opportunity to prove yourself. Take it or leave it. Jeff wiped his eyes. I'll take it. Then welcome to your new job. You start Monday. That evening, Dad called. He'd heard everything. You've humiliated your brother, he said coldly. You've destroyed this family's legacy. I saved the company from bankruptcy, I corrected. I gave Jeff a job when he deserved to be fired. I'm giving him the second chance you never gave me. By making him work under you? By rubbing your success in his face. By treating him fairly. Something you never understood. Dad's voice shook with rage. You're not my daughter anymore. Don't come home. Don't call. You're dead to me. He hung up. I sat there in my new office, Dad's old office, and felt nothing. No sadness, no regret. Just relief. Mom called later that night. "Your father's devastated," she said gently. "I know this has been hard, but maybe you could—" "No, Mom. This isn't my fault. Dad chose Jeff over me for years. He called me worthless. He laughed at me. I don't owe him forgiveness. He's your father. And I'm his daughter. That should have mattered before I became successful." She was quiet. Then softly, "I'm proud of you, sweetheart. I should have said that years ago." Jeff's first month was rocky. He struggled with taking direction, especially from me. Old habits showed up, trying to charm his way out of deadlines, making excuses for sloppy work. I called him into my office after a particularly weak client presentation. "That wasn't acceptable," I said. "The proposal was incomplete and the budget made no sense." "I did my best." "No, you didn't. You did what you used to do. Minimal effort expecting maximum praise. That doesn't work here." He looked defensive. "You're being too hard on me because of our history." "I'm treating you exactly like I'd treat any employee who submitted substandard work. If you want special treatment, you're at the wrong company." Something shifted in his expression. "You really mean that?" "Yes. You're not punishing me. You're just expecting me to actually be good at my job." "Finally, you understand." Over the next month, Jeff's work improved. Not dramatically, but steadily. He started asking questions instead of pretending to know everything. He stayed late to fix mistakes instead of blaming others. Small changes, but real ones. Then I received an email that made my blood run cold. The sender was anonymous, but the message was clear. Everyone should know the truth about Maury Harrison's unethical business practices. The email contained fabricated documents suggesting I'd used inside information from Dad's firm to steal clients. The accusations were carefully crafted lies, but dangerous ones. I traced the email back to a proxy server, then dug deeper. The digital fingerprints led back to Jeff's computer. I sat in my office, staring at the evidence. After everything, he was still sabotaging me. I called security to check his recent activity. They found more. Files copied to personal drives, client contact information downloaded, suspicious messages to competitors. I should have been angry. Instead, I felt tired. I'd given him a chance, and he'd thrown it away. I prepared a presentation for the emergency board meeting. When Jeff walked in, he froze. The board members' faces were grim. "Please sit down," I said calmly. He sat, his confidence draining away. "Mr. Harrison, we've discovered evidence of corporate espionage," I began, pulling up the screen. His fabricated email appeared first, then the trail of evidence leading back to him. "That's not, I can explain." I played audio recordings, his voice, talking to a competitor about our clients. Conversations I'd suspected and recorded legally with security system approvals. His face went white. "You were watching me?" "I was protecting this company. The same company I gave you a second chance in. The same company you tried to destroy. Again." The board voted immediately. Jeff was terminated, effective immediately. Security escorted him out. As he passed my chair, he stopped. "You planned this. You let me sabotage myself." "No, I gave you a real opportunity. You chose to waste it. You're just like Dad," he spat. "Cold, calculating, ruthless." "No," I said quietly. "Dad would have never given you that first chance. I'm exactly unlike him." Security led him out. The board meeting continued, but I felt dizzy. Something was wrong. My assistant rushed in. "It's your father," he collapsed. "They took him to Memorial Hospital. Your mother's asking for you." I stood up fast. "Victoria, you handle the rest." I drove to the hospital too fast, my mind racing. Despite everything, he was still my father. The hospital smell hit me, antiseptic and fear. Mom met me in the hallway, her eyes red. "He had a heart attack. They're stabilizing him now, but..." She broke down crying. I held her. Through the window, I could see Dad hooked to machines, looking small and old. Mom gripped my hand. He won't see you. When I told him you were coming, he turned his face away. I understand. He's been so angry, so stressed about the company, about Jeff. He blames you for everything. I sat down heavily. Maybe he was right. Maybe I'd pushed too hard. Hours passed. Nurses came and went. Mom dozed in the chair beside me. Finally, the doctor emerged. He's stable. You can see him now, but keep it brief. Mom went first. I waited outside, watching through the window. I couldn't hear their conversation, but I saw Dad's face. Angry, then sad, then something else. Tired. Mom came out, tears streaming. He wants to talk to you. I walked in slowly. Dad looked at me, his eyes red-rimmed. Maori. I sat in the chair beside his bed. We were silent for a long moment. I'm sorry, he said finally. His voice was barely a whisper. I'm sorry for everything. I felt tears threatening but held them back. Dad, let me finish. Please. He took a shaky breath. You reminded me of myself when I was young. Eager, hardworking, desperate to prove myself. It scared me because I remembered failing so many times before I succeeded. I thought if I pushed you away from business, you wouldn't experience that pain. So you chose Jeff instead? Jeff was confident. He reminded me of who I wanted to be, someone who never doubted himself. But confidence without competence is just arrogance. I see that now. Why tell me this now? He looked at the machines beeping around him. Because I almost died without saying it. You were the child who deserved my pride. You always were. I left the hospital at dawn. Dad was sleeping, Mom beside him. My phone had 50 missed calls and twice as many messages. The business world never stopped, even for family emergencies. But everything felt different now. At the office, I called an all-staff meeting. Faces looked at me with concern. They'd heard about Dad, about Jeff's firing. I know the last few days have been chaotic, I began. Change is difficult, especially when it involves family. But this company's future is bright because of all of you. I announced new policies, merit-based promotions, transparent communication, mentorship programs for overlooked employees. I was once dismissed because of who I was related to. Nobody here will ever experience that again. Your work will speak for itself. The response was overwhelming. Afterward, people approached me sharing their own stories of being overlooked, dismissed, underestimated. I'd built something bigger than revenge. I'd built a place where competence mattered more than connections. Over the next 3 months, the company thrived. We landed 6 major new clients. Revenue increased by 40%. Industry publications wrote features about our turnaround. I did interviews, gave speeches, became the face of a new kind of leadership. Compassionate but firm, fair but unyielding. Then my assistant knocked on my door. There's someone here to see you. He says it's important. Jeff walked in, looking different. Humbler. Older. Can we talk? I gestured to the chair. He sat down slowly, his hands clasped. I'm not here to ask for my job back. Good, because that's not happening. I know. He pulled out papers from his bag. I've been working on something. A new business model combining traditional consulting with digital innovation. I wanted you to see it. I took the papers skeptically. But as I read, my interest grew. His idea was actually solid. Innovative, well-researched, feasible. You did this yourself? Completely. I've spent the last 3 months learning, really learning, how to build something real. No shortcuts, no stolen ideas. I set down the papers. It's good, Jeff. Really good. I was hoping we could work together. Not employee and boss. Partners. Equals. I studied him. Why should I trust you? Because I've lost everything and learned what matters. Because you gave me chances I wasted, and I finally understand their value. Because you're brilliant, and I'm finally humble enough to admit it. Flattery won't. It's not flattery. It's truth. I've watched what you've built here. You've done in months what Dad couldn't do in decades. You've created something meaningful. I want to learn from that. From you. I stood up, walking to the window. The city spread out below. If we do this, there are rules. Equal partnership means equal work. No stealing credit, no cutting corners. Agreed, Jeff interrupted. Whatever terms you want. I'll earn your trust back however long it takes. I turned to face him. Let me think about it. Leave your proposal. I'll review it properly and give you an answer next week. He stood, extending his hand. I shook it. After he left, I spent hours reading his proposal thoroughly. It was genuinely innovative. More importantly, it showed real effort and understanding. Something had changed in him. Maybe losing everything had taught him what I'd learned years ago. Success without substance is just smoke. The following week, I called him. I'll partner with you on 3 conditions. First, we start small, prove the concept works. Second, everything's transparent. Finances, decisions, everything. Third, we have an ironclad legal agreement protecting both our interests. Done. All of it. Then let's start planning. We met twice a week, building the framework for what would become Harrison and Harrison Consulting. The name was his suggestion, and for once, sharing that name felt right. 3 months later, we launched. The company gained traction quickly. Our combined reputations, my established success and his innovative approach, created something powerful. But the real test came when Dad asked to visit the office. He'd recovered from his heart attack but moved slowly now. His confidence diminished. Mom brought him, steadying his arm as he walked. Dad stood in our new office, looking at the Harrison and Harrison logo on the wall. Jeff and I stood together, waiting. Finally, Dad spoke. You did it. Both of you. We're still building, I said. But yes, it's working. He turned to me, his eyes wet. I told you that night you'd never be successful. That you weren't meant for this. I remember. I've never been more wrong about anything. He looked at Jeff. And you, I taught you all the wrong lessons. Confidence without character. Ambition without ethics. I failed you both in different ways. Jeff stepped forward. You pushed Maori to become stronger than any of us. And you taught me the hard way that shortcuts lead nowhere. Maybe those were the right lessons after all. Dad pulled us both into a hug. I'm proud of you. Both of you. Not for your success, but for who you've become despite me. Mom took photos of us together, the 3 Harrisons, finally on equal ground. That evening, Dad asked to attend our next client meeting. Just to watch. I want to see how you work together. The meeting was with a major pharmaceutical company considering restructuring. I presented the analysis. Jeff presented the creative solutions. We moved together seamlessly, each complementing the other's strengths. The clients signed immediately. Afterward, Dad pulled me aside. That was remarkable. The way you two work together, that's what I always hoped this family could be. It just took us destroying everything first. 6 months later, Harrison and Harrison had 15 employees and growing revenue. My original company merged with the new venture, creating something larger and more powerful than either alone. Industry awards followed. Features in business magazines. Speaking invitations from conferences worldwide. But the moment that mattered most came unexpectedly. I was working late when Dad called. Turn on Channel 7 News. I found the stream on my computer. The segment was about successful family businesses, and somehow we'd been featured. The reporter interviewed clients, employees, industry experts. Everyone praised our innovative approach and ethical practices. Then they showed old footage, that charity dinner from years ago, where Dad had toasted to Jeff while I stood invisible in the background. The contrast between that night and our current success was stark. The reporter's voiceover, the real story of Harrison and Harrison isn't just about business success. It's about a daughter who refused to be dismissed, a brother who learned humility, and a family that rebuilt itself through adversity. Dad appeared on screen, his interview obviously recent. My daughter Maori is the strongest person I know. I spent years looking for strength in the wrong places. In arrogance, in confidence, in male heirs. I was blind to the real strength right in front of me. She built an empire while I was dismissing her. That's my shame and her triumph. The segment went viral. My phone exploded with messages from old colleagues, former classmates, people I hadn't spoken to in years. Everyone wanted to congratulate me, to say they'd always known I'd succeed. I ignored most of them. They hadn't known. They'd dismissed me too. But one message stood out. It was from a young woman named Jordan who'd watched the segment. I've been the invisible daughter in my family for years. Watching your story gave me courage to start my own business. Thank you for showing me it's possible. I replied immediately, offering to mentor her. Over the next weeks, more messages like Jordan's arrived. Women who'd been overlooked, dismissed, told they weren't good enough. I started a mentorship program, determined to help others avoid the pain I'd experienced. One evening, Jeff found me in my office reviewing applications. "You know what's funny?" he said, sitting down. "What? You didn't just beat Dad. You became better than him in every way. More successful, more respected, more compassionate. You proved that kindness and strength aren't opposites." "We proved it together," I corrected. "After you dragged me kicking and screaming into being a decent person," he admitted. "But yeah, together." The following week, Dad called a family meeting. I arrived at my parents' house, my childhood home, feeling strange. Everything looked smaller than I remembered. Dad sat at the dining table, the same table where he'd toasted to Jeff's success years ago. He pulled out an envelope. "I've been working on something," Dad said, his hand shaking slightly. He opened the envelope and removed a single sheet of paper. "I wrote this 3 years ago, the night after that dinner where I humiliated you. I never sent it because I was too proud. But I want you to have it now." I took the letter. His handwriting was shaky but clear. "Dear Maury, I've made many mistakes as a father, but tonight was the worst. I toasted to your brother's success while ignoring yours. I called you worthless when you've been the foundation holding this family together. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know, you are always enough. More than enough. I was just too blind to see it. With love and regret, Dad." I read it 3 times, tears blurring the words. "You wrote this 3 years ago? The night you walked out. I knew then I'd destroyed something precious. I just didn't have the courage to admit it until my heart attack forced me to face mortality." I folded the letter carefully. "Thank you for finally telling me. I love you, Maury. I should have said it every day. I'm saying it now." Mom was crying. Jeff was crying. Even I was crying. We sat around that table, the scene of my humiliation, and rebuilt what had been broken. Later, I drove to my office and placed Dad's letter in a frame beside my desk. Not as a reminder of pain, but as proof that people could change, that families could heal. The story went viral again. Major publications covered the daughter who bought her brother's company and saved her family. My phone never stopped ringing. But the message that mattered most came from Jordan, my first mentee. "I landed my first major client today. I used strategies you taught me. Thank you for believing I could do this." I smiled, remembering a young woman sitting alone in her apartment, convinced she'd never be successful. That woman had been wrong. But she'd needed to fall apart to become who she was meant to be. My father was right about one thing all along. Success did run in our family. He'd just been looking at the wrong child first. But in the end, we all succeeded. Together.